Yo, so we have finally been told what is going to happen in 2017. Wano Kuni and the Reverie arc are confirmed. We were told about the Wano Kuni arc, I think, last week. Now, obviously, this is a pretty big deal, and I was personally unsure of when the Reverie arc would come, but now we know it is coming in 2017. I never did a video on the Wano Kuni announcement, but maybe in the future I will do a prediction video on what I believe will go down in Wano. But as far as the Reverie is concerned, that is going to be insane. And I believe that the Reverie arc is going to be a sort of transitional arc in between Wano and Whole Cake. Now, this sort of begs the question, will we be seeing the entire Reverie arc or the events that will go down in the Reverie before Wano? Will we get like a little snippet of the Reverie beginning before Wano and maybe get like more snippets in between Wano and maybe the result at the end of Wano? Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because the Wano arc will be a huge deal for the entire world. We obviously know that Luffy versus Kaido is going to go down. We don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but we do most likely know that Kaido is going to be defeated by the end of it, and Luffy will probably be the one blamed the most. So if the Reverie ends before the Wano arc, then that huge event is not going to be covered. So I imagine maybe we will have like the start of the Reverie before Wano, and maybe we will have the events of Luffy versus Kaido at the end of the Reverie events. Another reason is that Luffy is very controversial. We have a lot of kings and queens that support Luffy, and they believe that he is essentially a very good person. Then you have the people who are obviously terrified of Luffy, like the government, the Navy, and they think that he should be exterminated immediately. So if you have people who both love him a lot and hate him a lot, you're going to have this huge argument breakout. And I believe that the events of the Wano Kuni arc should be displayed during that whole little session. Now, on top of Doflamingo's defeat, if you have Kaido being defeated as well, and you have the people of Wano being freed, then you're going to have two arguments for both sides. Obviously, you could make the case that Luffy is saving all of these oppressed people, but then you could also say that he is taking down Yonko and Shishibukai, so he is a huge threat, and that will be most likely a huge part of the discussion at the Reverie. So with all that in mind, it definitely makes you question, when will the Reverie take place? Will it be directly before or after or in between Wano Kuni? Now, obviously, Dragon is very important, and he will be a topic at the Reverie, and many people are saying that he will actually appear at the Reverie. Now, if you guys remember a while back, about a year or so ago, we had information on the future arcs in One Piece, which were what we know now as Whole Cake Island, Zou, and then we had this mysterious book that had the revolutionaries on them. And there are two big reasons as well as to why he might end up appearing. We have the fact that he is building up a lot of people to end up doing something against the world government. We know he had plans for something and he was going to enact them, and then Blackbeard came along and either chased them out or got there once they already left. So maybe that book from a while back on the revolutionaries was actually full of information and pictures of members of the Revolutionary Army and them appearing at the Reverie and playing some kind of role. Now, going back to a theory I did a while back, Dragon, as we know, spent 2 years with Robin during the time skip, and Robin knows where the Pluton is based on the Alabasta poneglyph. So if Dragon has this kind of information, he might already have the Pluton, or at least know where it could be. So if he appears at the Reverie, the Pluton is something that, as we know, CP9 was after. CP0 might also be after it. We know the world government will obviously really want this weapon, so maybe information about the ancient weapons and the Pluton will appear. One other person who might be very important is Blackbeard. Blackbeard is going to have a huge role, I believe, in the Reverie because, much like Luffy, he has taken down a lot of powerful people. As we know, he was somewhat responsible for the death of Whitebeard. He stole Whitebeard's power. He also took basically all of Whitebeard's territory, so he's already like ahead of Luffy by a landslide. So as we know, Blackbeard will be either a huge matter of discussion, or he could even appear alongside Dragon. Obviously, he might have chased Dragon down, and he might go with Dragon, maybe tail him all the way to the Reverie. Because that whole little encounter they had at Baltigo didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So if this ends up being the result of their encounter at Baltigo, that would make a lot more sense, and if it actually directly affected the Reverie. But yeah, that would be pretty insane if both Dragon and Blackbeard were there. Now, going back to the whole thing about Luffy being very controversial, we also know that the Shishibukai will be very controversial as well, and Fujitora will most likely drive the case that they should be abolished, and we have Vivi and Rebecca all pushing the case as well that the Shishibukai are immoral and they were a result of the takeover of both of their countries. Now, we also have to consider the fact that other nations will be there that might not really like Luffy at all. They don't know anything about him, and they will maybe feel differently about the Shishibukai system. So if that ends up happening, we could end up seeing a war between several nations because, as we know, at the Reverie, wars can break out between leaders of nations. So yeah, it's going to be absolutely insane. And I may do another video with my predictions of this and Wano. I'm thinking about maybe doing a stream this week, so look forward to that. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about the announcement in particular. So I hope you all enjoyed, and other than that, I will see you all next time.